you want to perhaps finish on this term buy-in? As you say, if we're trying to get buy-in, that's a bit of a sign that we perhaps probably missed a bit of the core process.
Yeah.
Is there any ways that we could even think about how to reframe, or even the language we use around buy-in? Because that term's just not good, is it? I reckon there's got to be something that we can, well, collectively, not just you and I, but come up with that probably helps going forward, perhaps.
That is a great challenge. That's a great challenge. Yeah. So if we weren't going to use the term buy-in, no one says, I need your buy-in. It's always talked about in the third
True.
person. Yeah, we got to get, so-and-so's buy-in on this change plan or something like that. For me, I would rather, so quick departure, and I'll come back to it. Again, in the design space, there's usually a conversation about customer research. We do research, we do interviews and surveys and concept testing and so on. And the go-to cliche there is, yeah, I talked to customers. And that's another one that really makes me twitchy, because I would rather say, yeah, we listened to customers. We listen. That's what research is. We listen. We don't talk to, we listen. And so if I borrow from that and I think about, rather than saying, yeah, we need Harry's buy-in on this, I'd rather say, yeah, we need to help solve Harry's challenge. We need to bring our challenges together. There's something about, to me, solving several challenges with the one solution.
Yeah, that's really, it seems it's really subtle, but has a huge impact, doesn't it?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to be too naive about it, but if there's language that shows a mindset of solving a common problem together, and it's not just getting someone's input, that's a given. Yes, we need Harry's input on this solution, but I think we need to know more about Harry's challenge, marrying that up to our challenge. Something about the language of success and results. How do we get Harry's result? Sure, I want my result, but how do we get Harry's result?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I think, again, just building on a bit of that, I think ultimately, when we stand back and we look at what's actually happening here in a strategy process, one of the key things that often, and that I haven't seen, and I still sometimes miss in the, wanting to help them move forward, is this thing about acknowledgement. And often what you've described there, often if people don't feel like they've been acknowledged by their own perspective or insights or view on the organization, view on community, view on the world, as within reason, within a strategy context, of course, if they don't feel like they're being acknowledged, and that can roll up into teams, of course, in larger organizations, as we know it's not possible perhaps to get every single person directly, but it can flow up through teams, of course. To me, that's really key, because especially in that kind of a divergent phase, and as you said, moving convergent and then emerging insights, if people don't really feel like they've been heard and acknowledged, that includes external people, right from clients to partners to suppliers to just the broader sector you're operating in. If they don't feel like that their problems are acknowledged of course, at the end result or even in the process, we as humans, I think we kind of switch off a bit, and we think, well, okay, you're presenting this thing, you're selling this strategy to me, but I don't feel like my view, and I could be a customer-facing person in the organization who's speaking to customers. If I don't feel my view has been acknowledged at all, I can probably very easily switch off, and that again goes, of course, to a customer's perspective. If they don't feel acknowledged that their problem's being solved, they're probably going to switch off. So that it sounds like it's a pretty basic human level, but when I stand back and look at a process when it's done well, there's often those things that come out, and it's often the human side that often it ultimately boils down to.
I think that is huge. I really think that is huge. And to me, there's such a difference from just being heard, which is important, to being acknowledged. And that acknowledgement may not even be positive. Like Harry from accounts has been heard, and he might be acknowledged by saying, yeah, we understand what you're saying your challenge is, we understand the solution that you've put forward and how you think it would solve that challenge, as well as the kind of, broader challenge that the organization is facing, that your challenge feeds into, for example. But for a boatload of other reasons, we can't go with that solution. But at least he knows why. Like,
Yeah.
to me, that's still acknowledgement. Yeah, acknowledgement doesn't have to be that, tick, yes, we are going with your idea. And that's another, I think, assumption that's worth breaking down. But yeah, I've
So
never
true. What you've described there, Ben,
such a difference.
is is exactly what you described there. Acknowledgement doesn't always, or every idea is not going to get up. But we find that when the CEO or typically or executive goes back, exactly what you've described, and just paints that picture, we listen to all these different perspectives, and these are the reasons why we've had to make these tough decisions, because the executive and the CEO board should ultimately be making those decisions because they're
Of course.
accountable.
Yes.
But as long as people, and I've seen that timeless, people go back and say, describe exactly what you described there, that this is the reasons, these are some of the other perspectives that we heard, both internally, externally. People typically say, okay, no, I get it. I really appreciate you've taken the time. That might be even in the parking lot for the moment. It might not be forgotten, but it might be in the parking lot for another year or so because of the external dynamics. I
Yeah.
think that's a great way to describe.
Oh, and it's got to be logic, not politic. I
Mm,
think it's got to be, yeah, that makes sense. Not because, yeah, well, such and such a team is the darling of the organization. They're the ones getting all the resources.
true.
It can't be politic. I mean, again, I'm not going to be so naive to think there's never going to be a political aspect to
I
why,
hear you.
an important decision needs to be made. And so, yes, there's always going to be that flavor, but there's got to be some logic in there. And sometimes that logic is missing. And so, yeah, people, if they find out, no, their idea didn't go up, well, it's for political reasons. And what you described before happens, like people lean out. Yeah.
They do.
And no one wants that.
That's so true.
I've never realized that difference between being heard and being acknowledged. I love that. Yeah, yeah. Can I steal that? I want to steal that.
Well, it's come out through our collective conversation, isn't it? Because I mean, we've started the process, haven't we? Those, from what you described, listening as opposed to talking with clients, involvement and acknowledgement. I think that's a pretty good, although we're not, it's not about wordplay, but I think that's as from a collective kind of conversation here. I think it's hopefully a good start that we can build on. So that's been really valuable to me, and hopefully
Agreed.
a bit of value to
Agreed.
some others as well.
Yeah, well, it's been valuable to me. And for anyone watching and listening, I hope it's valuable to you. Yeah, yeah. Andrew, we should do this again sometime.
We should. Well, we're doing a bit of work together heading into the new year. So no, look forward to continuing these conversations and ruminating on these kind of topics.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, it fires me up. I love it. Yeah, yeah. Thanks, heaps, Andrew.
Agreed. Thanks, Ben.